Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about picking up the sleeves on our sweater and working down the sleeve, figuring out our sleeve length and how many stitches to end up and how far to go. So I'm going to use double pointed needles. If you have very short circular needles, like for a baby sweater, you'd have to have a circular needle that's maybe 9 or 12 inches long. The idea is pretty much the same. You're going to need, so you'll need your needles. You're also going to need, I forgot to put out a stitch marker. Let me grab one really quick to mark the center of your round. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to join a new yarn. And here at the underarm, we cast on 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, actually 5 I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to pick up those 5 stitches, and then I'm going to choose a center that'll be here where I'm going to place my marker. So to pick up stitches, I like to just choose a row. The very first row that I see is here, and I'll go into the center of the first stitch and just loop the yarn over my needle, leaving 6 to 8 inch tail, and then pull that stitch up. And continue on with the working yarn. Go into the next stitch. Remember, a stitch looks like a V. Stitch looks like a V. Okay, so go into the stitch and pull up a stitch. Go into the next stitch. This is the center stitch. I'm going to put my marker on my needle after this stitch. If the first one's loose, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Stick my marker on there for the center. And because I have an odd number here, so I will have 3 on one side and 2 on the other. Now when I get to the end of the underarm stitches, I have this huge gap here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the gap closed just to see where the best place to pick up a stitch would be, and I think it would be right in here. So I'm going to reach into that space and pull up a stitch. I'm going to decrease the stitch away afterwards. Now I'm just going to slide one over. Okay, and the way that I do this, instead of decreasing away the stitch, I actually bind it off like a normal bind off on this side. Pull that nice and snug, and that closes my gap. So now I'm just going to pick up another needle, leave this one hanging, and pick up from the thread one stitch at a time. I do it this way. It's kind of, some people will transfer all the stitches first and then pick up the needles, the stitches at the beginning of the at the underarm rather, but I always get excited about getting to the knitting right away and then have to stop and transfer them onto here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. I had counted earlier and I had believe 24 stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 27. Okay, so now I'm going to rotate and I'm going to pick up another needle and do the same thing. Just take each stitch one by one. Sometimes when you're doing this, the stitches that are on the holder want to run down. If that happens, what I do is I take the thread that's holding it and pull on it to pull up the stitch. And I'm transferring the stitches onto the needle purlwise. I'm sticking my needle into the stitch purlwise. The reason I do that is to so that when the needle ends up on, when the stitch ends up on the needle, it will be in the correct orientation for Western style knitting, which is the style of knitting that I do, where the right side of the stitch is the leading side. It's on the needle facing me. And 2 more. And last one. Okay, remove my marker. I don't need it anymore. Okay, so now I'm coming back around to where I left off, over here. And I am now working in the round. I'll pick up one more needle, set that one aside. So I've for all intents and purposes, the sleeve is divided onto 3 double pointed needles. If you like working with 4 needles, you can divide the stitches up onto 4 needles. And like I said, if you want to use a circular needle, you can go ahead and instead of picking up your stitches first, go ahead and put them on the needle and then pick up your stitches at the end of the round instead of at the beginning like I did here. So I'm going to go ahead and knit around. And at this point you get to decide where the beginning of the round is. It does not necessarily have to be at the point where you picked up your new stitches. It can be at any point that you like. And just for the ease of keeping track of where I'm at, as I'm decreasing stitches to shape the sleeve, I like to have the beginning of the round be at the seam line, which is where I put my marker. Okay, so here I am now at the end of this needle, and again there's this large gap here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up, I'm going to pull the gap together like I did before, just so I could see where the best place would be to pick up a stitch, and I think it would be probably right there. So I'm going to go ahead and go in there and pull up a stitch. You could do this with a crochet hook too. Okay, now this time I am going to put it on the left needle, this new stitch, and I'm going to, it's like binding off, but I'm not really binding off. What I'm doing is pulling now the second stitch from the end of the needle over the stitch that I just picked up, and I'm going to pull on this little tail to tighten it. And now I've closed my gap. I prefer to do it this way instead of casting on extra stitches and then decreasing them away, because it just looks neater to me. That's my preferred method to deal with those underarm gaps there. Okay, so now I have to decide how I'm going to taper my sleeve, and you can do that with a little bit of math. So I've got 2, 4, 6 stitches 6 stitches at the underarm here. And this one came from this needle, if you recall. When I did that bind off maneuver, I moved the stitch from this needle to this needle. So that's how I ended up with 6 here instead of 5, because I had picked up 5 stitches originally. And I should have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, so I have 29 stitches here, and I'm actually going to round that down to 28 because I like working with round, nice even numbers. I don't like, in knitting we do not like fractions at all. So I have 29 in here, and I'm going to work with the 29 stitches on the needle, but I'm going to pretend I have 28 just for the sake of even numbers, and I will decrease away that last stitch when I get down into the ribbing, or maybe I'll leave it down at the end. But for my calculation purposes, I will pretend I have 28. And so if I have 28 stitches to start out with, and I want to get down to 20 stitches, that means I need to get rid of 8 stitches to taper my sleeve. Why 8 stitches? Because I want my sleeve, my total sleeve length, to be 4 inches before I get to the ribbing, and then I'm going to do 1 inch of ribbing, so that'll be a total length of total length of 5 inches for the sleeve. So how did I arrive at 5 inches? How did I get these numbers? Okay, I used my stitch gauge and my row gauge. Okay, my row gauge tells me, my row gauge is actually 5 rounds to the inch, and that tells me that for 4 inches I'm going to have a total of 90, a total of 20 rounds to work with. 5 times 4 is 20. That's 20 rounds to work with. So within these 20 rounds, I need to decrease away those 8 stitches, and I'll be decreasing away 2 stitches each round. So I just take the number of times that I'm going to decrease, which 8 divided by 2 is 4. So I'm going to be decreasing 4 times. 4 divided into the number of rounds I have available to decrease by 20 equals 5. So I'm going to decrease 2 stitches every 5th round 4 times. So that will get me to actually not the 20 stitches I need. I'll end up with 21 because I have that 1 extra odd stitch. And once I get to that point, I will decide what to do. And I like to start the decreasing right away because I don't like that odd shape on a lot of sleeves that looks like where the sleeve will go out straight and then start to taper. I don't like this. Let's see if you can see that. This shape where you have a line and then it starts to taper. I prefer to have the sleeve just taper right away at from the beginning. Oddball little drawing. So now that I know that I'm going to decrease every 5th stitch 4 times, then I'll begin just working in the round that way, and I'm going to start my decrease rounds right away. So this is my first round, and I'm going to come up to 2 stitches before the marker and do a slip knit, slip a stitch, knit them together. I will slip the marker over and do a knit 2 together on this side. Knit 1, and now I will work around, and on my 5th round I will repeat this decrease at the seam line. So I'll go ahead and do that, and when I have finished the sleeve, I will come back and show you what it looks like. I will see you then.